can actually see through solid rock.
Wow.
And they're even using cosmic rays to make images of what's down there.
So like X-ray vision for the Earth.
Exactly. They can look deep inside the pyramid and underneath it without even having to like dig anything up.
That's wild.
Yeah, and what they're finding is pretty mind-blowing.
So what are they seeing down there?
Well, the big thing is that it looks like they've confirmed this huge underground structure.
Huge, like how, like we're not talking about little tunnels or chambers here.
We're talking thousands of feet deep.
Oh, wow.
Some people are even saying it goes down almost a mile.
A mile underground.
Yeah, and get this.
Yeah.
They're finding these cylindrical shafts that go straight down like 2,000 to 4,000 feet.
That's deep.
Then apparently they open up into these giant cube-shaped chambers connected by these like spiral pathways.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture this.
It's hard to even imagine, right?
Like something out of a movie.
I know, right? And of course the scientists are all freaking out about this.
I mean, excited?
Well, some of them are excited, yeah, but there are others who are like trying to downplay it.
Really? Why would they do that?
I think it just doesn't fit with their current understanding of history.
Right, like it throws a wrench in everything they thought they knew.
Exactly. It's like they're saying this can't be real because if it is, then it means we have to rewrite history.
But that's how science works sometimes, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's how we learn and grow, but sometimes people are resistant to change.
Especially when it comes to their deeply held beliefs.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is that this isn't just happening in Egypt.
What do you mean?
Like, if you look at cultures all around the world,
Yeah.
they all have these stories about underground cities and chambers and tunnel systems.
I've heard some of those.
Yeah, they're everywhere. And it makes you wonder if there could be some connection between all of them.
Like a global network of underground stuff.
Right. And this is where things start to get a little bit more fringe.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
You remember Phil Schneider?
Remind me.
He claimed to have worked in these deep underground military bases.
Like Area 51.
Yeah, exactly. But he called them DUMBs.
DUMEs.
Yeah, deep underground military bases.
Okay.
And he said he encountered these strange beings down there, like these tall grays.
Aliens.
Yeah, and he even warned about hidden underground cities that the government was keeping secret.
Oh, wow.
So now people are wondering if these discoveries in Egypt could be related to those DUMEs or to the legends of these ancient underground civilizations.
It's a pretty wild theory.
Yeah. I know, right? But the scale of what they're finding in Egypt is just so huge that it's hard to dismiss.
It definitely makes you think.
Doesn't it?
It does.
And then there's all this stuff about the Chincana tunnels in Peru.
The what tunnels?
Chincana.
Okay, I've never heard of those.
Yeah, they're these legendary tunnels that are supposedly under Cusco.
Cusco.
Yeah. And some people say they stretch for thousands of miles under the Andes Mountains all the way to Antarctica and throughout the whole continent.
Wait, hold on. Thousands of miles of tunnels.
Yeah, and get this.
This is getting crazy.
The stories say they're big enough for giants to walk through.
Giants like huge people.
Exactly. And the story is that when the Catholic Church came to South America, they sealed up a lot of the entrances to these tunnels.
Why would they do that?
Well, apparently they believed in the Nephilim.
The Nephilim.
Yeah, you know, from the Bible, Genesis chapter 6.
Oh, right. The giants and fallen angels.
Exactly. They thought they were real and they were worried about what might be down in those tunnels.
So they just bricked them up.
Yeah, pretty much. But then later on, the church kind of changed their stance on the Nephilim.
What do you mean?
They started saying that they were just ordinary people, maybe just really tall or strong.
Okay, but the Bible specifically says they were the offspring of angels and humans.
That's what it seems to say. Yeah, the Hebrew term is Ben Ha-Elohim, which is usually translated as sons of God.
And that usually refers to angels.
Right, so it's like they tried to downplay the whole thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then you've got all the stuff about Antarctica.
Antarctica, what about it?
Well, there are all those rumors about Nazis escaping there after World War II in submarines.
Oh yeah, I've heard those.
And supposedly they built these secret bases in underground tunnels beneath the ice.
Sounds far-fetched.
I know, but then you have these alleged whistleblowers coming forward saying they've seen evidence of hidden structures down there.
Mm-hmm.
And they claim there's this global elite that's covering it all up.
A conspiracy.
Yeah, it's a whole rabbit hole.
So we've got underground cities, giants, Nazis, and Antarctica.
And don't forget Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh yeah, that place is creepy.
They've found all sorts of strange things there, like weird objects and tunnels, and they've even picked up these bizarre signals coming from underground.
And it's like a paranormal hotspot, right?
Yeah, tons of UFO sightings and other weird phenomena.
Makes you wonder if there's a connection between all these underground places and the paranormal.
Right, and this is where things start to get really weird.
Okay, lay it on me.
You know about Aleister Crowley, right?
The occultists.
Yeah. So apparently he performed this ritual inside the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid.
Inside the pyramid.
Yeah, and he was trying to contact ancient entities.
Like what kind of entities?
He specifically called them demons.
Demons in the Great Pyramid.
I know it sounds crazy, but he claimed that he actually made contact and that they gave him forbidden knowledge.
Forbidden knowledge.
Yeah, it was a whole book called the Book of the Law.
The Book of the Law.
Yeah, and he said it contained knowledge from the time before Noah's flood, like from the Atlantean kingdom.
Oh, wow.
And guess what the main message of this book was?
I don't know.
Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
That's a pretty loaded statement.
Right, and the really creepy part is that Crowley claimed this message came from the same entities that enslaved humanity before the flood.
So, like, these demons were giving him instructions.
Pretty much. And some people believe that this philosophy has been embraced by like powerful people in Hollywood and politics and even in mainstream society.
You're saying we're being influenced by these ancient demons?
Well, that's what some people believe. Yeah, it's like we're unconsciously repeating the mistakes that led to the flood.
That's a disturbing thought.
It is. And then you
Yeah.
have all these ancient structures around the world that just don't make sense.
Like what?
Like those massive stone constructions that they call Cyclopean architecture.
Cyclopean architecture.
Yeah, things like Stonehenge and the pyramids and all these other megalithic sites.
Those are pretty impressive structures.
They are, but the stones are so huge and they're fitted together so precisely that people don't understand how ancient humans could have built them.
So who do they think built them?
Well, some researchers believe they were built by the Nephilim.
The giants.
Yeah, they say that Atlantis was the capital of this ancient empire ruled by fallen angels, and that they had this advanced technology that allowed them to build these incredible structures.
That's a pretty bold claim.
I know, right? But then you have all these ancient cultures that have stories about giants teaching humanity forbidden knowledge.
Like Prometheus giving fire to mankind.
Exactly, and the argument is that these aren't just myths, but memories of real events that happened before the flood.
So you're saying all this stuff is connected?
Yeah, I think it is like all these pieces fit together into this larger hidden narrative.
About a pre-flood civilization ruled by fallen angels and giants.
Exactly. And the idea is that this civilization was incredibly advanced, but also incredibly corrupt.
So God destroyed them with a flood.
Yeah, but the story doesn't end there.
What do you mean?
Some people believe that not all of the Nephilim died in the flood.
Like they went underground.
Yeah, maybe. And then you have Jesus saying that the time before his second coming will be like the days of Noah.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
So could these new discoveries and all the weird stuff that's happening in the world be signs that we're headed back to that time?
Like a repeat of the pre-flood world.
Yeah, and then there's this whole thing about the pillars of Enoch.
I've heard of those.
They're mentioned in some ancient texts, and some people believe they were built to preserve knowledge before the flood.
Like a time capsule.
Exactly, and some researchers think that the Great Pyramids could actually be the pillars of Enoch.
Wow.
Yeah. And if that's true, then maybe they really do contain this ancient forbidden knowledge that Crowley was talking about.
So we've come full circle back to the pyramids.
Yeah, and the theory is that all of this points to the survival of this ancient demonic empire deep underground.
An empire that's still influencing the world today.
Right, and some people believe that certain groups like New Agers want to bring back this era because they're attracted to the power and technology.
And they see the fallen angels as gods.
Exactly. While the elites and the mainstream media and academia are trying to cover it all up.
To protect their own power and to prevent people from believing in the Bible.
That's the theory anyway.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but there's more.
More?
Yeah, there's this YouTube video that's been making the rounds.
What's it about?
It talks about this massive structure that's supposedly been found under the middle pyramid at Giza.
The one they call the Kofar.
Yeah, that's the one. And they're saying this structure is 2 kilometers deep.
2 kilometers, that's over a mile.
Yeah, and they use this technology called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography to find it.
That sounds complicated.
It's basically like using radar to create a 3D image of what's underground.
Okay.
And people are freaking out about this discovery online.
Really, why?
Because they're saying it could change everything we know about the pyramids in ancient history.
Like how?
Well, some people think it could be evidence that the pyramids weren't built by humans.
But by who?
Maybe by the Atlanteans or by some other advanced civilization.
And they're saying this structure could be part of an ancient power plant.
Yeah, or even a giant underground city.
Wow.
The video also talks about how there seems to be some censorship happening around this topic.
Censorship.
Yeah, like people are saying that their posts about it are being deleted on Reddit and Twitter.
That's suspicious.
Yeah, like someone's trying to keep this information quiet.
So where did this report come from?
Well, apparently there was this Twitter post by an account called Project Unity back in March.
March of this year.
Yeah, and they referenced an announcement that had been made a few earlier about these groundbreaking findings.
Then who made the announcement?
It was supposedly from these researchers named Filippo Bionde and Cardmanga,
Okay.
and they used this non-invasive SAR technology to make the discovery.
And how does that work?
Basically, it analyzes these tiny vibrations in the ground caused by seismic activity.
Like mini earthquakes.
Yeah, and by measuring those vibrations, they can create a 3D image of what's underground.
That's pretty ingenious.
And what they found is just incredible.
What did they find?
Huge structures extending down over 600 meters from the base of the pyramid.
600 meters. That's like 2,000 feet.
Yeah, and then those structures connect to even larger formations that go down 2 kilometers.
2 kilometers?
Yeah, that's over a mile underground.
That's insane.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And of course, people are speculating about what it could be.
Like what?
Some people think it's an energy harnessing system,
Free energy?
maybe, and others think it could be a giant underground city.
Wow.
And there are even more details.
Tell me.
They use high-resolution radar images from these companies, Capella Space and Umbra,
Okay.
and they created a 3D model of the whole thing.
And what did they see in the model?
Well, they found this previously unknown chamber inside the pyramid.
Another chamber.
Yeah, and it has 5 horizontal levels and a sloping roof.
That's different from the other chambers in the pyramid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's making people wonder if the Egyptians even built this part of the pyramid. But the most amazing thing is what they found underground.
What's
These vertical cylindrical structures.
They're like pillars.
Yeah, but they're hollow inside and they go down 648 meters.
648 meters. That's over 2,000 feet.
Yeah, and there are 8 of them arranged in 2 parallel rows.
And they're all connected by these spiral pathways.
Right, it's like some kind of elaborate underground complex.
So what's at the bottom of these structures?
Well, according to the report, there are these 2 massive cubic formations, each about 80 meters in diameter.
That's huge.
Yeah, and they also have spiral pathways.
It's like they were designed for something or someone to move through them.
Right, and the level of engineering is just mind-blowing.
It doesn't seem like something that the dynastic Egyptians could have built.
That's what a lot of people are saying, and it lends credence to Brian Forrester's theory.
You mean the guy who thinks the Egyptians found the pyramids already built?
Yeah, exactly. And the video actually includes a clip from one of his videos where he talks about the Serapeum.
The Serapeum, what's that?
It's this underground burial complex in Saqqara, and it's got these incredibly heavy sarcophagus lids. Each one weighs like 100 tons.
100 tons. How do they even move those?
That's the mystery nobody knows, and they're all located underground about 12 meters deep.
So how do they get them down there?
That's what Forrester is trying to figure out, and he points out all these weird things about the Serapeum. Like there are no tool marks on the lids.
So how did they carve them?
That's the thing, nobody knows, and there's no sign of any light sources down there.
So how did they see what they were doing?
It's a total enigma, and it makes you wonder if maybe the Egyptians didn't build it.
Maybe they just found it and used it for their own purposes.
Exactly. And then the video also mentions the Sphinx.
What about the Sphinx?
Well, there's this theory that there's an underground city beneath it.
An underground city under the Sphinx.
Yep, and it's supposedly accessible through this shaft called Shaft D, but it's blocked off now.
So nobody can get in.
Well, some people have tried.
Really?
Yeah, there's even footage of them trying to break through the blockage.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah. It's pretty wild, and it all ties back to this idea that there's this whole hidden world beneath our feet.
A world that we're only just beginning to discover.
And it's not just about the past. It could have huge implications for our future.
How so?
Well, think about it. What if these underground structures are actually some kind of ancient technology?
Like what kind of technology?
Maybe they were built to harness energy or to do things that we can't even imagine.
Like free energy.
Exactly. And what if that technology has been suppressed all this time?
By who?
By the powers that be, the people who control the world.
Why would they do that?
Because they don't want us to know the truth.
The truth about what?
About our past, about our potential, about the true nature of reality.
That's a pretty big claim.
I know, but it's something to think about.
It is.
And then there's this whole thing about the pyramids being some kind of free energy device.
I've heard that theory before.
Yeah, it's been around for a while, but this new discovery is giving it more credence. Well, the video talks about how the king's and queen's chambers are built with granite that's rich in quartz.
Quartz.
Yeah, and quartz has this property called piezoelectricity.
Piezoelectricity.
Yeah, it means that it can generate electricity when it's put under pressure.
Okay.
And then they talk about how the tunnels in the pyramid are also lined with quartz.
So they're like giant electrical conduits.
Right. And then they bring up Christopher Dunn's theory.
Christopher Dunn?
Yeah, he wrote this book called The Giza Power Plant.
I've heard of that.
And he believes that the pyramids were designed to harness energy from the earth.
Like geothermal energy?
Sort of, but he thinks it's more than that.
What do you mean?
He thinks that the pyramids were built on top of underground aquifers.
Aquifers.
Yeah, underground lakes, and that the water in those aquifers created sound waves.
Sound waves.
Yeah, and those sound waves resonated with the Earth's natural vibrations.
Interesting.
And as those vibrations moved through the pyramid, they were amplified and converted into usable energy.
Like a giant acoustic amplifier.
Exactly. And he even did chemical analysis of the pyramid and found traces of sulfuric acid.
Sulfuric acid.
Yeah, which is interesting because it suggests that there might have been some kind of chemical reaction happening inside the pyramid.
Like what kind of reaction?
Well, he thinks that they might have been producing hydrogen gas.
Hydrogen gas.
Yeah, and that hydrogen gas would have flowed into the Grand Gallery.
The Grand Gallery.
Yeah, and built up pressure and created an electrical charge.
So the Grand Gallery was like a giant battery.
That's one theory. And then there are these resonators in the Grand Gallery.
Resonators.
Yeah, these little alcoves in the walls, and Dunn thinks they were used to emit sound frequencies.
Sound frequencies.
Yeah, and those frequencies would have further excited the stone and enhanced the energy generation process.
It's a pretty elaborate theory.
It is on.
A lot to think about.
And it all seems to be pointing to something big.
Something that could change the world.
Exactly.
So what do we do with all this information?
Well, I think the first thing is to keep an open mind.
Right.
Don't just dismiss it all as crazy talk.
But also don't believe everything you hear.
Exactly. Do your own research, think critically, and come to your own conclusions.
And